Shalom, brothers and sisters. This is Brother Malak from the 12 Tribes United. All right. Today is the Purim. Oh, it started last night at sundown, right after Nikana. Also tonight is the ending of Purim, also known as the seventh day weekly Sabbath. All right. The day that the Most High rested. All right. So now we're gonna go straight to the point because, like I always say, my phone only has 15 minutes to record to put on the YouTube. So we're going to get into it. This is Esther, the 9th chapter in the Holy Bible, King James Version, Old Testament. It says, now, in the 12th month, which is the month Adar. So what does that mean by the 12th month? That means the last month of the year before the new year comes in. All right? It's only a few weeks before the new year comes in, the Hebrew New Year. All right, so that means it's the 12th moon. And that is the month of Adar, that's the Hebrew word. On the 13th day of the same. So this is the 12th month and the 13th day. This is when Purim starts. All right. When the king's commandment and his decree drew near to be put in execution, so the king had a commandment, and now the commandment was being put in what? Execution, meaning it's going to be carried out. It says, in that day that the enemies of the Jews hoped to have power over them, though it was turned to the contrary, that the Jews had rule over them that hated them. So the enemies of the Jews, which are the Israelites, the 12 tribes of Israel, the word Jew comes from the word Judah. It sounds like the word Judah, but it really refers to the all 12 tribes. All right? So who were their enemies? They were the other nations, mainly Esau. They tried to come up against us, but we had rule over them, meaning we had the power of waiting for them to come against us because we already was waiting for them. It says the Jews gathered themselves together in their cities throughout all the provinces of the king Assuerus to lay hand on such as sought their hurt, and no man could withstand them, for the fear of them fell upon all the people. And all the rulers of the provinces and the lieutenants and the deputies and officers of the king helped the Jews because of fear of Mordecai fell upon them. Who was Mordecai? He was a Benjamite, also called a Jew. All right. The prophecy of Benjamin is really going into Mordecai. All right. For Mordecai was great in the king's house, and his fame went throughout all the provinces. For this man Mordecai waxed greater and greater. Thus the Jews smote all their enemies with the stroke of the sword, and slaughter and destruction, and did what they would unto those that hated them. And in Shushan the palace the Jews slew and destroyed 500 men. And Par-Shadatha and Duphon and Arpatha and Poratha and Adaleah and Aradatha and Parmushta and Arisai and Aradai and Vijithatha, the 10 sons of Haman, the sons of Hamadatha was Haman. Haman was an Edomite. All right, that's who Haman was. It would be a so-called white man of today. The enemy of the Jews slew they, but on the spoil laid not their hand. So this goes back to the book to Genesis 49 when it speaks about, about the Benjamin shall raven as a wolf and so forth and so on. All right, because Mordecai was a Jew and he also was from the tribe of Benjamin. But that's going to another story. On that day, the number of them that were slain in Shushan the palace was brought before the king. So they killed 10 sons of Haman. And the king said unto Esther the queen, the Jews have slain and destroyed 500 men in Shushan, the palace, and the 10 sons of Haman. What they have done in the rest of the king's provinces, now what is thy petition, and it shall be granted thee? Or what is thy request further, and it shall be done? Then said Esther, if it please the king, let it be granted to the Jews which are in Shushan to do tomorrow also, according unto this day decree, and let Haman's 10 sons be hanged upon the gallows. And the king's commandment, it was so to be done. And a decree was given at Shushan, and they hanged Haman's 10 sons. For the Jews that were in Shushan gathered themselves together on the 14th day also of the month Adar. So what is this? The next day. So Purim is 2 days, the 13th and 14th day of the 12th month at sundown, which ends tomorrow. The second day of Purim is tomorrow night, which happens to fall on the 7th day Sabbath. So we cooked last night, I cooked this morning, but tomorrow night you don't cook because it falls on the 7th day Sabbath. It's still the 7th day Sabbath, even though it's the second day of the Feast of Purim. It says, and slew 300 men at Shushan, but on the prey they laid not their hand. Here we go again, the prophecy of Benjamin once again. But the other Jews that were in the king's provinces gathered themselves together and stood for their lives and the rest from their enemies, and slew of their foes 70 and 5,000, but they laid not their hands on the prey. On the 13th day of the month Adar, and on the 14th day of the same rested they, and made a day of feasting and gladness. So it says they rested on the 13th and 14th day. What does that mean? That it was a Sabbath. That it's a Sabbath. And it said of feasting and gladness. So that goes more into the fact that it's a day of rest, meaning we don't work, we don't buy, we don't sell. But the Jews were at Shushan, assembled themselves on the 13th day thereof, and on the 14th day thereof. And on the 15th day of the same, they rested and made it a day of feasting and gladness. So they kept going, even unto the 15th day. But the high holy day is on the 13th and 14th day. They just kept feasting. That's all. The next day wasn't a Sabbath. Therefore the Jews of the villages that dwelt in the unwalled towns made the 14th day of the month Adar a day of gladness and feasting, and a good day, and of sending portions one to another. So what was they doing? They was giving gifts to one another, portions. All right, portions of food, portions of gifts. It was a day of gladness. All right, and Mordecai wrote these things and sent letters unto all the Jews that were in the provinces of the king Ahasuerus, both nigh and far, to establish this among them, that they should keep the 14th day of the month Adar, and on the 15th day of the same yearly. The reason why it says 15th, because you got 14th at sundown when it ends, and that would be the 15th day. On the days wherein the Jews rested from their enemies, and the month which returned unto them from sorrow to joy, and from mourning into a good day, that they should make them days of feasting and joy, and of sending portions one to another, and gifts to the poor. So they was giving gifts to the poor also. And the Jews undertook to do as they began, as Mordecai had written them. Because Haman, the son of Hammedatha, the Agagite, the enemy of all the Jews. Now, if you remember correctly in the scriptures, Saul was told to kill Agag the king. He was an Edomite. And because he didn't kill him, this man came from that lineage. He would have never been born if Saul would have done his job. And Mordecai came out of the lineage of Saul. So here it is, Mordecai came out of the lineage of the same lineage as Saul. And this man came out of the same lineage of Agag. He was an Agagite. All right. So here it is, their descendants meet again. From Saul to Mordecai, from the king of Agag to his descendant, which was Haman. All right. He came to destroy that. All right. To take to from what his ancestor did. Saul, who didn't do the job that the Most High wanted him. He saved Agag the king, and now Haman was born. All right. It says, had devised against all the Jews to destroy them, and had cast Pur, that is the lot, to consume them and to destroy them. So that's what Purim means, lots. Paryum. But when Esther came before the king, he commanded by letters, and his wicked device, which he had devised against the Jews, should return upon his own head, and that he and his son shall be hanged on the gallows. Wherefore they call these days Purim, after that the name of Pur. Therefore for all the words of this letter, and for all that which they have seen concerning this matter, and which had come unto them, the Jews ordained and took upon them. You see the word ordained meaning made it a law. That's the word from the word ordinance, meaning law. And took upon them and upon their seed, and upon all such as join themselves unto them, so that it should not fail, that they would keep these 2 days according to their writing, and according to the appointed time every year. So every year we have to keep this. All right, the two days of Purim, first and the last, are Sabbaths, and that these days should be remembered and kept throughout every generation. What does that mean, every generation? We're in a generation still. Your father, your father's father, and so forth and so on. Every generation, every family, meaning every family of Israel, every province, every city, no matter where you go, you keep this. And that these days of Purim should not fail from among the Jews, nor the memorial of them perish from their seed. And Esther the queen, the daughter of Abiah, and Mordecai the Jew, wrote that this with all authority to confirm this second letter of Purim. And when he sent the letters unto all the Jews to the 127 provinces of the kingdom of Assuerus with words of peace and truth, to confirm these days of Purim and the times appointed, according to Mordecai the Jew and Esther the queen had enjoined them, and that they decreed for themselves and for their seed the matters of the fastings and their cry. And the decree of Esther confirmed these matters of Purim, and it was written in a book. So, this is the scriptures going into Purim. Now we're going to briefly touch something because we got some more time. Let's go back to the book of Esther, the beginning, and just recap on certain things. It says Esther 1:1. Now it came to pass in the days of Assuerus, that is Assuerus, which reigned from India even unto Ethiopia, over 127 provinces. So King Assuerus, which was from the lineage of Elam, or Persian, today be known as the East Indians, they ruled from India unto Ethiopia. So here it is, you have the Hindu Kush Empire, meaning when the East Indians mixed with the Ethiopians. Because the Ethiopians that you see in Ethiopia today, the so-called Falasha, the so-called, Beta Israel, the Ethiopian Orthodox Church, you notice that they don't look like real Ethiopians no more. They look like East Indians. And their language sounds close to the East Indian, and their music sounds close to East Indian. Why? Because they're descendants of the East Indians that mixed with the Kushites during this time period. This is why they have that look. The original Ethiopians were very dark skinned, the darkest people on the planet, the Nubians, really dark. But once they mix with those East Indians, those Persians, their hair start getting straighter and so forth and so on, their features start changing. So a lot of them are really East Indians. Even Haile Selassie's father was an East Indian. He comes from that bloodline. On his father's side, his mother's side is what you would call Ethiopian. So the Kush and the Indians, East Indians, during this time period, they merged together. And they created what you call today the Ethiopians of today. You go to Ethiopia now, you see a lot of you see the indigenous tribes, they're all darker and the features are darker. But then you see these real light ones, these ones with the big eyes, and they look East Indian because of this mixture, because of this merge. There's even mountains still called the Hindu Kush. Who was the Hindus? East Indians, obviously. Who was the Kush? The Ethiopians. All right? So they merged together. The Babylonians and the Persians. The ancient Babylonians come out of Kush. The Persians come out of Elam. All right? So Persia was in Iran. The ancient Persians are what you call the East Indians of today. All right? And the Babylonians they are what you call the Ethiopians. Babylon was another province of Ethiopia. It tells you that in the scriptures. Nimrod owned Babylon and Ethiopia. All right? So it's just some history of how some of the East Indians and the Kushites are making them. All right, brothers and sisters, I'm going to say shalom. Happy Feast of Purim. Give me a call at area code 347-465-1305. This is Brother Malak. All right. Shalom.